กราบนมัสการพระอาจารย์อมโรภิกขุแล้วก็สวัสดีท่านแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านค่ะในนามบริษัทหลักทรัพย์ภัทระจำกัดมหาชนดิฉันขอกราบขอบพระคุณพระอาจารย์ที่ท่านเมตตามาบรรยายธรรมให้กับเราในวันนี้นะคะหัวข้อที่ท่านจะบรรยายคือการดูแลชีวิตโดยธรรมะอย่างไรในโลกในกระแสโลกทุนนิยมค่ะก็หลายๆท่านคงรู้จักพระอาจารย์อมโรภิกขุนะคะปัจจุบันท่านจำพรรษาอยู่ที่วัดอมราวดีเมืองฮาร์ตฟอร์ดประเทศอังกฤษค่ะนอกจากที่ท่านจะบรรยายธรรมให้กับเราในวันนี้ท่านก็ได้โปรดเมตตานำงานเขียนบางส่วนของท่านมาเผยแพร่เพื่อให้เราได้ศึกษาก็ขอกราบขอบพระคุณท่านค่ะที่ท่านโปรดเมตตาในวันนี้ก็สุดท้ายขอพระอาจารย์โปรดอนุญาตญาติโยมที่มาฟังคำบรรยายธรรมได้มีโอกาสกราบเรียนถามคำถามไขข้อข้องใจเพื่อไว้ใช้เป็นแนวทางปฏิบัติในการดำเนินชีวิตค่ะก็กราบนิมนต์พระอาจารย์โปรดแสดงธรรมค่ะ
นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะบุตถังธัมมังสังฆังนะมัสสามิ I'm very glad to be here today, and also I was very glad to find out that I was expected to be speaking in English rather than in Thai, since my English is considerably better, and I hope that there is, as I understand, a simultaneous translation for those who need it, so I hope that is effective and everyone will be able to hear and to understand what I'll be offering today. So I was very interested to be invited to this pair of venues yesterday at the Buddhadasa Indapanyo archive, and then to the Phatra Securities Dhamma group, and I thought, hey, how come those two things are so close together? How did they get linked up? And then I found out that the head of the BIA group community is the brother of the head of the Phatra group. So now I understand. And I thought it was as I discovered that, I thought how appropriate that one brother looks after the material side and the other brother looks after the spiritual side. So we can support each other and help take care of things in a complete way, because in this world, we have to take care of both the spiritual and the material. The Buddha didn't just teach the Dhamma; he also taught the Vinaya. The Vinaya is we think of it as being the rules for the monastic community, but it's also how do you live a spiritual life in the midst of a world where you have to eat and you have to breathe, you have to have clothes for your body, you have to live in relationship to your family, to the society, and to the whole world. So the interface of those two, the Dhamma and the Vinaya, is really in essence the same question: how do we live a Dhamma life what's the title? How to lead a daily Dhamma life in the capitalistic world today. So, how do we bring the Dhamma together with our worldly concerns and the society that we find ourselves in, and particularly in this company? I'm not sure what work all of you do, but obviously a financial securities company is very much involved in the business world and the realm of economic activity and right in the thick of in a sense, the materialistic machinery of the world that we live in today. So I thought that in that light, what I would try to do would be to talk about the ways that we can live, the ways that we can train our mind in order to work in the midst of that kind of activity, the kinds of demands of living in a city, of having responsibility, of trying to do a job well, and trying to live according to Dhamma principles of, being mindful, being wise, and being unselfish. Because I remember visiting Thanachan Puddhathat many years ago, back in 1988. I spent 2 weeks down at Wat Suan Mok. After I finished my 10th Pansa, my 10th reigns as a monk, I came to Thailand for 3 months at that time, and had the chance to visit Wat Suan Mok. And one of the things that Ajahn Puddhatasa was saying, he said, you know, a few years ago I used to say you could summarize the whole of the Buddha's teachings into 4 words. Quotation from the Prasut, Sabhe Dhamma Nalang Abhinivesaya, which translates as don't cling to anything. Don't cling to anything. 4 words. Sabhe Dhamma Nalang Abhinivesaya. He said, now I've got it down to 3. He was quite pleased with himself. So you can summarize the whole of the Buddha's teaching into 3 words. And the 3 words were, don't be selfish. I'm not sure how you would say that in Thai, but that was how he said it in English when we were there. Don't be selfish. So how do we do that when we live in a world where we're trying to, carry out our responsibilities with our work, to do a good job, and also to find peace, to live in a way which is, say, bringing benefit to ourselves and bringing benefit to others? And how can we manifest those qualities that the Buddha advised and pointed to as being the basis of a healthy and wholesome life, and a healthy and a wholesome society? So it occurred to me to mostly talk about how we can use the main aspects of the training to say, guide our lives. And I'm presuming that many of you here are part of the regular Dhamma group, meditation group here at Phatra. I understand you have a group that meets every Wednesday, and so I'll take it for granted that most of you are familiar with some basic Buddhist principles and Buddhist practices. And when I finish the first part of the talk, then I'll open things up for questions, and people will be very welcome to raise questions, and we can have some dialogue. But that's my understanding, or what I thought I would offer is on the basis of you being familiar with some Buddhist meditation and Buddhist teachings. So is that a good, fair assumption? Yeah. Is that okay? Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, I'll try to keep it simple, so that in terms of meditation, one of the things that the Buddha encouraged is as a basis for developing mindfulness, learning to pay attention to our life and to be able to live in a harmonious way, is to use the feelings of the body, what we call body awareness. So paying attention to the sensations in the body. So when you are in the midst of your job, maybe in a busy, an active meeting with lots of dialogue going on, intense discussions, and you're having feelings of excitement that, oh yes, we're about to close the deal, and I think it's going to go well. Or you think, oh no, going badly, and I'm going to get the blame, and the feeling of worry and dread. Then when the mind is caught up in those kind of emotions, or excitement over various kinds of profits that are possible, or losses that are possible, trying to be, find a way of agreeing with your clients, with your bosses, with your co-workers, we experience intense emotions. Is that right? Yeah. That sometimes when you see, I don't know if many of you do trading on the stock exchange, on the photographs of people working on the stock exchange floors, you see very intense emotions. They often, maybe they choose the most extreme facial expressions to the pictures they put in the newspapers or on the magazines. But when I see the photographs of people in the stock trading and say commodities and brokerage, those kinds of fields, when they're in the midst of trading, they're like some of the most extreme emotional states displayed on people's faces. So when we are, say, caught up in emotional states like fear, hope, excitement, anger, desperation, then what the mind is drawn to is the thing that we're afraid of, the thing that we're angry about, the thing that we're excited about. That's where the mind goes. And so, because the way that our minds work, it's very easy to get drawn into emotion. We get lost in emotional states. Is that right? I'm not making too many assumptions. So it's very easy to dit arom, to attach to the feeling, to the aramana. And so, and probably most of you have noticed that when you are not caught up in the emotion of fear, of things going badly, or hope that things are going to go well, or excitement that it's all coming out better than you expected, when you're not caught in the emotion, then you're able to do a better job, right? And the more caught up, the more carried away we are, the more often we make mistakes, or we act in foolish ways. And so that one way to be able to understand and to learn how to handle those kind of intense emotions is to develop a body awareness. So when you feel yourself getting very excited, you're in a meeting and the clients are about to agree to the deal, and you're about to get what you want, you notice, oh, this is the feeling of excitement. This is the anticipation. Yeah, the client's reaching for his pen to sign, and you say, oh, this is the feeling of excitement, and then to bring the attention into the body, to notice the sensation, and to be able to be aware of that, simply as a sensation in the body, a feeling in the body. So you're still conscious of the happy feeling and the enjoyment of seeing the client sign the agreement, but you're not getting lost in that. You're not getting carried away by that. You're not getting drunk on that feeling. So similarly, when we're upset about something, that we are being criticized in some situation. Maybe we've had a wonderful day at work, we closed the deal and made a huge profit for Phatra Securities, and then we get home and our husband is saying, where have you been all day? It's 11 o'clock at night. You were supposed to be here for dinner. Oh, right. Then you have the feeling of regret and shame. In the same way, even for very, very good reasons, very natural, ordinary human reasons, we feel these intense emotions at that same time. Along with giving your spouse full attention, you can also notice in your body, oh, this is the feeling of regret, this is the feeling of sadness, of, let's say, the hiriotapa, the sense of shame, oops, I made a mistake there. To notice, how does that feel in the body? What is the pain in the heart like when we see we've done something that is harmful or unkind or thoughtless? So this is a very simple way that we can use throughout the day, and not just with intense emotions, but ordinary emotions, just to be able to keep track of the flow of our life, the patterns of our day, and to be paying attention to the present moment. The emphasis of the Buddha's teaching and Buddhist meditation is very, very much on how to bring the awareness to the here and now, to the present, because this is where life actually happens, right? Our attention can get so easily caught up in memories of the past, projections about the future, and I'm sure many of you, you're paid good money to figure out what's going to happen in the future, right? Is that an assumption? Yeah. If you can figure out what's going to happen in the future, then me success mak mak. But the more that we live in the idea of the future, the more we are missing the reality of the present. And so that if we really wish the future to come out in the best way, we do the necessary work to create the causes for things to go well in the future. But our attention needs to be 95% in the present moment. It's like if you are out hiking through the countryside, you're up in the mountains, and you want to get up to the top of the mountain. You know that's where the path goes, up to the top of the mountain. But if you keep staring up and you don't look where you put your feet, very easily you slip off the path, or you tread on a rock and you twist your ankle, that you tread on a snake, because you're too busy looking ahead of where you are. So the Buddha's teaching and Buddhist meditation has a very strong emphasis on learning how to not get caught up in ideas of past and future, but to pay attention to the present moment. And our body is always in the present moment. Chame? It never wanders off to the past or the future. It's always here. And even when you get really distracted, you're caught up in some computer program, completely absorbed in some research or some deal or some communication, so absorbed you even forget you have a body. You just, I think we've all been there. And so then, the mind, whenever you realize that the mind has been carried away and absorbed, and you finish your task, or you pull away from the screen and the keyboard, then your body has been here all along. The body was always there. You just weren't paying attention to it. So when we are trying to support this quality of being aware, attentive to the present moment, then it's important to say, use this the presence of the body as an anchor, as like a reference point, that we can always come back to that, and it will always help our attention to be more grounded in the reality of the present. So, as I said, it doesn't have to be with extreme emotions, but just walking along the corridor through this building, standing in the lift, sitting in your car, just to be able to notice this is the feeling in the body, the feeling of heat or the feeling of coolness. This is the feeling of being annoyed at the other cars on the road, the feeling of interest as you walk past the shop window and see something, that just bringing the attention into the body, the feeling of walking, the sensations of like or dislike, being in a rush or being at ease. The more we are able just to notice the sensation in the body, then the more we are able to keep a balanced and clear attention to the present moment. So another way, people often ask these kind of questions, how to live a Dhamma life, how to maintain mindfulness, and to be able to live in a wholesome, a skillful way during a busy working life. And they say, "Oh, I'm so busy. You can't believe my schedule, Ajahn. All day, beginning to end, it's just filled with activities." Well, it might not be encouraging to you, but I'm on 16 different committees. So I go to a lot of meetings. And my life is also filled with agendas and minutes. It might be surprising to you, but Amaravati Monastery is a very big place and has many different activities that go on there. And so that my day too has got a lot of things scheduled into it from beginning to end. So we might think, oh, but I've got no time to meditate. It's just my days are so full, I've got no time to practice meditation. But obviously, in an ideal way, you would arrange your life as well as you can to, say, have a period of half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening, at least, to sit down in your home and be quiet by yourself. But if you think, well, that's the only possibility that I have for any kind of peace, then we're really missing the 23 hours of the day, because my teacher, Venerable Ajahn Chah, would always say, if you have, when people would say, Lumpur, I've got no time to meditate, I'm so busy with the farm, with the kids, with the school, with the patience, you know. He'd say, if you have time to breathe, you have time to meditate. He'd say, are you ever so busy you stop breathing? So, no. Yeah, there you are. So that, and he would often talk about this kind of thing I've been saying, like to be aware of emotions, the arom arising and passing away, the different moods we have during the day, using the feelings of the body to be mindful during the day. And also what we can do is we can take very, very short periods just to be still and to be quiet, so that this means that when we are looking at the flow of the day, the activities of the day, we often find ourselves caught in a busyness, right? There's one thing after another, busy, 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 right? And they're always leaning into the next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing. So that we feel, oh, there's no space, too much to do, so little time. Right? Is this familiar? So, but what we are not realizing is that that the time is always there, we just have to use it. And so that even to take a period of meditation of just 5 seconds. So, like when you come into a room, maybe you have a meeting you have to go to. You come into a room and you're the first person there at the meeting. So, you don't have to just open up your briefcase or your iPad and start checking messages. I'm not reading people's minds, by the way. I'm just going by the way the world functions. So don't think, he knows exactly what I do. He's been watching me. No, I just have been watching the world, you know. So, rather than just whip out your iPhone or your iPad and start checking messages, or even to look at the agenda, just to take a moment to sit down in one of the chairs and give yourself 5 seconds, just to 1, 2. It's a long time, isn't it? 5 seconds, and yet it can make such a difference. So we have a lot of groups of 5 seconds during the course of a day, right? But we miss that. We miss the space and the openness that's here in each day, because we fill it with the habits of multitasking. There is actually a Sanskrit word for multitasking, ashtavadana. So they were doing it back then in the in the ancient times as well. But we are so caught up in the many tasks that we do that we're not able to multitask with any kind of balance. Our multitasking creates more confusion and stress. So what I like to recommend is just finding times during the day just to stop. Like when you get into your car, rather than immediately turning the key or pushing the button, and just to sit in the driving seat, or if you have a driver that takes you places, just to say to the driver, just wait 5 seconds, wait 10 seconds, Law, it's like idiot. And then just sit there, wait. Okay. Then take off. It works better if you're driving yourself, because the driver might think, yeah, couldn't mare pal out. But during you probably can get the drift, so that during the course of a day, when you finish a meeting, everyone else is gone. You don't have to just pick up your things and race out, chatting away. You can just take a moment to stay back, be in the space where all of the noise and activity and exchange was happening, just to be still. And this is when I was first at Amaravati. I was there as a younger monk from 1985 to 1995. I lived there just after the place was founded. And I was very much involved in helping to run the monastery. I'm a kind of an organizer type, sort of officey, secretarial type kind of person. So I ended up looking after a degree of the administration and organization at Amaravati. And also we had a lot of work to do. The buildings were old, wooden buildings with no insulation, so we had a lot of physical work to do. We took the walls off, the wooden cladding off the walls, took that off, filled them with insulation, made them 2 inches thicker, and then planed off all the old wood to make it smooth, put it back on again, and then painted everything. And this is with 5,000 square meters of walls. So, so there was a lot of physical work to do with the place, but also a lot of organizing. So what I would do is, say when we were in the middle of this big insulation project, sometimes I would go to the work site right after the morning meditation. Before the work program began, I would go to the place and just sit there, sit myself down on the big bale of insulation of the un, and just sit there. And there would be the workbenches and the saws and the piles of insulation, but completely quiet and still. And I would just, for a moment, just sit there, take it all in, and appreciate the silence, the stillness, the space. And then during the day, when there's all the activity and there's 20 monks and lay people all busy around with their staple guns and saws and working and a lot of activity, then something in the back of the mind would remember, actually behind all of the noise and activity, there's stillness, there's silence, there's spaciousness. And then at the end of the day, when sometimes after the evening puja, I would go back to the same work site and say, okay, again, there's all the stuff. You'd see the work that we had done during the day, how much had been changed, and say, okay, this is where it was all happening, and now, again, stillness, silence, space. So you might think of the Phatra building as a, whoa, busy, 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 lots of people, a lot of activity, but actually there's a lot of space here, a lot of silence, but we just have to notice it. So it doesn't mean to say you have to be kind of sneaking around or doing anything strange or difficult, but just taking a few moments, like, as I said, before a meeting begins, after a meeting ends, even when you go to the bathroom, when you've finished your business in the bathroom, you don't have to immediately just rush out the door. You can just stand there, sit there. Remember the quality of stillness, peacefulness. Again, 5 seconds is not that long. I mean, maybe some of you earn so much that 5 seconds is a lot of money. And your boss, Kun Vancha, would say, oh, I don't want all this wasting 5 seconds. They pile up over the year, do the maths, But you can look upon this as looking after the welfare of the workforce, the team. This is the kind of thing that is a great benefit to our spiritual and physical well-being. So I like to call these micro meditations. Sitting when you're stuck in traffic, you can sit there, listening to the radio or listening to a tape, or just sitting there feeling complaints. Or you could just sit there saying, oh, this is just like the Wednesday meditation group. Sitting still, not going anywhere. So you can take advantage of being in that situation and making use of it rather than thinking of it as an obstruction. So another of the things that we find that whereby we find a lot of stress being created in our lives. We get caught up. It's not just because of the degree of responsibilities we have, the number of things that we have to do with our work or with our family, but it's also the attitude within our mind, how we relate to our feelings, to our thoughts. And I'm the kind of a person that I do a lot of thinking. My nitsai, my character, personality is to be chatty. I have an active mind. And so that the tendency when you think a lot, or even when you don't think a lot, but especially if you do a lot of thinking, is that we tend to believe that all our thoughts are true. That if I think something, it's true. And if somebody else thinks something different, then they're wrong. They might be a good person, but they're wrong. So we take it for granted that if we think something, if we believe something, it's true. And that we take our thoughts to be ultimate realities. This is good, that's bad, that's right, that's wrong. This is beautiful, that's ugly. Is that a fair assumption? So we often, without any kind of, say, consideration, we take it for granted that our thoughts are true. And so thought is very useful. I think there was a piece in the Bangkok Post that was from a book of mine that describes this, that was printed a couple of days ago. You know, thought can be very, very useful, but when we attach to it, it can be a big burden. It can be a cause of great stress. The mind going on and on, worrying and creating problems. So one of the most helpful things in terms of living a Dhamma life in a world of capitalism and activity and commercial concerns is, and this might seem a bit heretical or radical, is to learn not to trust your own thoughts. To learn not to believe your own thoughts. To see that if you think something, you can look upon it as what they call a working hypothesis. And that's a bit refined English, but so it's a possibility to consider. When we say that's beautiful, then to remember, yeah, that's my opinion. Other people might say, that's all right. Or that with food, you say, oh, that's delicious. And they go, oh, how can you eat that? Right? When you go to Mung Nok, that it's some food that, you know, you might be taken out to a very posh restaurant where it's some, you know, very wonderful, you know, spectacularly rich Italian food or something, and the people feel, wow, they'll be really impressed with this delicious. This is a really special place. And then for a Thai person, they think, oh, mai mi rot. There's no chili in it. Oh, mai mi rot. It's not hot. You know, there's no chili in it. It's got no flavor. I'm speaking from experience here. So, what is a delicious or good taste to one person, to another is not. So when we say that's right, that's wrong, that's good, that's bad, that's beautiful, that's ugly, to remember, well, that's a working hypothesis. That's my opinion. That's one way of looking at it. So this is a very, very important, very helpful tool. So Luang Por Chah used to say, and he was very gifted at giving simple teachings that were extremely effective. So he would say, whenever your mind comes up with a judgment that says, this is good, that's bad, this is right, that's wrong, just say to it, it's not a sure thing. Mai nae. That this is not a sure thing. That this is just your judgment. Or when the mind is, say, hoping for something, or you're planning something, like he would say, you should never say, I'm going to go to Bangkok tomorrow. So that's not the right way to talk about it. So if we're going to talk in terms of Dhamma, if we want to bring our life, our attitudes into harmony with Dhamma, then we should say, I have a plan to go to Bangkok tomorrow. That I know. So when people say, oh, when are you going back to England? I try to remember to say, well, I have a ticket to go on the 21st, or I plan to go on the 21st. Sometimes I don't quite get all the words in, but inside I try to recollect that. Yeah, I have a ticket to go on a plane tomorrow, but will I go? Mai nae. And so for you in the securities industry, yeah, security, you know, I realize this is fighting talk, as they say, because mai nae is about insecurity. So I'm not trying to undermine Phatra Securities, but maybe it should be renamed Mai nae Securities. Yeah? That's just a joke. Yeah. So that you might think, well, that's going in the opposite direction, because security is nae non. We want to be nae. We want to be sure. We want to be secure. We want to have things predictable and safe. But the fact is that the sabbe, sankhara, anicca, all conditioned things are anicca. They are changeable and they are uncertain. And so that if we wish to see in terms of reality, yes, you know, when we park the car, we lock it. You know, when we making a business deal, we make sure everything is signed and agreed, and that the passwords are hidden. We take those steps for security in the material world, but also it's important that we keep remembering Mainar. It's not a sure thing, because you might make all of the moves for everything to be secure, but then if the bottom falls out of the economy, then suddenly the pieces of paper that indicate this is 100 baht, 1,000 baht, 10,000 baht, if the economy goes like in Greece or in Spain, they're worried, that suddenly the money that was so valuable today, next week, you're using it to start the fire because just paper, it's just lost its value. So that when we are, and you might think, well, I don't like Mainar, I don't like that. Well, how can that be useful? But why this is useful is because it's helping us to keep all of our actions and our work in a context, to see it in in a way that all these things actually exist in the natural world. Because when the Buddha made that a simple statement, Sabbe Sankhara Anicca, all conditioned things, Sankhara Thang Lai, and Tiang, they are my Tiang, they are impermanent. He was pointing to a way that is a universal quality of all things, that everything changes. And when Luang Por Chah would explain or talk about the quality of anicca, when you literally the word aniccang means impermanent or not lasting. But he would most often use the translation of mainar or uncertain as a translation for the word anicca, because when we say something is impermanent or changing, it's more like an external quality. It's like something that is, say, an attribute of the material world. It's out there. But the word uncertainty, mainar, is the feeling in our jitta, in our jitjai. When the jit meets with the changing, what is experienced is kwam mainar. Is that right? Kachai? So what we feel when we meet with change is uncertainty, because none of us knows what's going to happen next. Okay? So that in a way the subject side, the personal side of anicca is that feeling of uncertainty. Mainar, we don't know. So that you might think, well, that's just going to make me more worried, and I'm going to lose my job if I keep telling people. They're coming to me to be a representative of a securities company, and I say to them, mainar. They're going to go somewhere else, They're going to go to the Nanon Corporation. So you might think, well, this is pointless. This bit of the Dhamma talk is really useless. So I'll switch off and switch on again when something more relevant comes. But in a way, I would say this is the most important piece of it, because when you are, it's like Ajahn Chah would also say, when you are looking for security in that which is intrinsically insecure, you have to be disappointed. So if we in ourselves recognize, well, I'm making this as tidy as possible, as secure as possible, but I'm not in charge. Mariben Chakong. I'm not the owner. I'm not in charge. But we'll do our best. And this company, you can say, no one can guarantee this, but this company will do the best job. To the degree which things can be protected or guaranteed, we will do it the best. But we always have to remember, tuk sing tuk yang mainar. And what happens when we are able to remember that quality of mainar, of uncertainty, then rather than increasing the feeling of anxiety, it actually brings the heart more into a quality of peacefulness, because you're not trying to fill up the unknown, the future, with a hope or with a fear, with a belief, but you're more able to say, respect that quality of the unknown. So that you are able to, in a way, be more in accord with reality. So this is why Ajahn Chah would say, this is the quality, when we see the quality of anicca, this is how we develop true wisdom. This brings our heart into into alignment with Dhamma itself, because that's the reality. The reality is everything is uncertain, mainea. And so when we see that, then our life, our view is more in line with the actuality. And so there's a greater quality of peacefulness, clarity, and then a flexibility. Because if we're not anxious about the future, we're not filling that up with a hope or a fear or a worry, then we're much more able to respond in the present moment in an effective way. That makes sense? So you're more fully capable of attuning yourself to the present if you're not worrying about the future. Like playing a piece of music. Like, I don't know if any of you played in orchestras or bands, and so if you are trying to follow a piece of music and play with the rest of the orchestra, so if you're worried about, you start to think about, oh, that difficult passage on page 2 is about to come up, right? You start worrying about the future, then, ooh, even on the easy bit, your fingers go to the wrong place. You find yourself out of tune with the other people because you're thinking about what's going to happen next. So, what we have to do is to recognize, oh, I don't know what's going to happen when we get to that difficult bit on page 2 of the score. But right now, I'll give myself to attending, to working with this, and I will trust, to have saddha, to trust that if you're mindful, if you pay attention to the present, then we will be able to adapt in the most effective way to the things that present themselves when we get to that difficult bit, when we get to that next piece. So maybe this is also a good area to have discussion about when we come to the second part of this session, to see how does Kwam Mainea and security, how do they fit together. But for now, I just wanted to put that suggestion that if we remember that, you can see for yourself when you are, caught up with worry, is it going to be okay, is it not going to be okay, how's it going to go? If you just remember, oh, Mainea, see what happens in your own jitta. To me, when I remember that, when I recollect that, there's a relaxation, there's a, oh, of course, it's uncertain. How could I know? How could it be a sure thing? So we are creating space, not just in the way we are, functioning during our day, but we're creating space in our own mind, space around our thoughts. We're not taking our own thoughts too seriously. We're not believing in our thoughts. We're not filling up the future, but we're allowing there to be more space in our mind, more adaptability, more flexibility. So that when we are looking at an active life or a busy life, and we feel that the days are clogged up, and so many of the changes that we can make are to do with our attitude, the tasanakati, how we hold our thoughts, how we hold the activities of the day. Or just like I was talking about traffic. Now, how many of you have ever thought of yourselves as being traffic? Anybody? How many of us have ever thought, oh dear, there are all these important people trying to get places on the streets of Bangkok, and here's me being traffic, getting in their way? Kachai mai? Now, how many people have ever had that thought? No, it's, I'm stuck here in traffic, right? The traffic is bad. How many people say, oh, yeah, I should be there in 15 minutes, like Kun Pram saying, should be there in 15 minutes, but if... But here we are in the traffic. But we don't say, well, I'm contributing to the traffic here. I'm sorry, I'm being part of the traffic and getting in the way of all these other good people who've got important places to go to, but we don't think that way. So that there's a lot of ways in which we can shift our attitude, change the way that we see things, and we create more space in our day and more effectiveness in our work. When we are hoping for success and fearing failure, we feel like we've got to get somewhere and we are afraid we're not going to get there. We are holding the attitude, I've got to get somewhere and all these people, this traffic is in my way. We don't notice that we're creating these attitudes and turning them into solid realities, right? We are making them real by the way we hold them in our thoughts, in our attitude. And one of the great blessings of Buddhist meditation and the Buddhist teaching is to point to the attitudes that we create and that we hold, and to say, look, what are you bringing to this? So that is a very easy example of traffic. So now, maybe I've ruined your habits of looking at the other cars on the roads of Bangkok in the usual way. So I hope I have ruined that. Because it's very interesting, isn't it? How it's almost universal. And don't think that just Bangkok people are the only ones. This is the same everywhere. In America, California, England, everyone is the same. They are traffic. I am on my way somewhere. So that if we just notice that we're doing that, and we switch it around, and then we say, oh, it's very unfortunate that we're getting in each other's way, but I can take this opportunity sitting on the road to pay metta, to spread loving kindness to all these good people. Maybe you sit at home in the morning, may all beings be happy, ahang sukito homi, idoko homi, sabe sata suki hontu. But then you forget that the sabe sata are also on the roads with you, They are not the sabe sata who are the recipients of your metta. It's like them, the traffic, getting in my way, because I've got to get to Phatra, and we said we'd be there at 12 o'clock. So that we can make much more space and find great peace in our days by seeing the attitudes that we create and changing them. It's not always easy to change the attitude, but at least we can see and laugh at ourselves, like, oh, look at that. Why am I the only person that is not traffic? How come these are not real people? They're just things in my way. But when I get my Dhamma book out and I'm doing my chanting, then I love all beings, without exception. All of them. But then it changes during the day. Similarly, if you are, say, competing against another company, I don't know who the other security firms are, that the non-security company, other people that you're kind of the other lot that you're competing against. I don't know who that would be, but you can think, may all beings be happy, except that lot, the other side of the street. I wish all beings, may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained, but actually, I would like them to be parted from their good fortune and for it to come here instead. Because mudita, to have when the other company makes a big success, they get the big deal and make the huge profit. How many of you, an opportunity for per mudita jit, to celebrate the success of the other company? Does that happen? I'm not testing you, but just mostly it doesn't happen. Because we hold these attitudes unconsciously. So just to bring mindfulness and attention to the way that we hold things, the attitudes that we have, can make a huge difference. Also, it might be that you are thinking, I think this Dhamma life is really, this is really the most important thing for me, and I suspect I should just sort of bail out of the whole securities industry, and I should follow more bancha rather than the other bancha. I should go over the fence and join that lot. And maybe he's getting worried now, so please, I'm not trying to make you feel worried. But maybe, I've had it with all this Dhamma makes so much sense, this is so useful, and there's so much stress and difficulty, and I should just give it up and go off and live in the woods and just bring up my kids out in the country and just, forget the whole capitalist world. Well, I had an interesting conversation a number of years ago with Bill Ford, who is now the head of the Ford Motor Company. And he lives in Michigan. There's a little Dhamma group in Detroit, Michigan that I would go to visit. And one of the people who organizes it was in the advertising industry for many years. So he knew Bill Ford and the company. And Bill Ford at that time, he was a kind of, he was a sort of young member of the Ford family, and he was kind of a bit too liberal and a bit too green. That they didn't really trust him that much in the boardroom, so he was looking after the charities. It's like he wasn't allowed to use the wheel yet, He didn't get to sit in the driving seat. So, but he was quite a significant member, as a great-grandson of Henry Ford, and got the Ford name, and very, very wealthy, and a significant member of the Ford Motor Company. And so he was interested to meet me, and our mutual friend, had given him some of Ajahn Chah's Dhamma books. And so I went over to his house in Michigan, and I think Grosse Pointe, Michigan is where he was living. And a very nice conversation that we had. And the flow of the conversation was, well, I know I'm a Ford and I'm a part of the company, but I'm married and I have 4 kids and I love my family, and I'd really like to just give the whole thing up and go off and live in Vermont, have a little farm, take the kids in, for like hikes in the woods and go camping and and just have a peaceful life out in the country. And I think that would be much better. And the feeling I had was that he was expecting me as a Buddhist monk and a forest monk to say, oh yes, very good, give up the capitalist life, get out of the whole business, and far more sensible for you to go off and be a country boy and grow carrots and plant apple trees and watch your kids grow and get grass stains on their knees, playing in the fields. But to his surprise, and to my surprise also, actually, I was not expecting that. But what I found myself saying was, because I was very impressed by his attitude and his spiritual qualities. He's a very, very good person. He's got a very kind heart, and he's very wise. And so what I said, well, you'll probably hate me for saying this, but you should consider that you've actually got a lot that you can bring to the company that other people are not going to bring to it. And you're in a very powerful position. You're a Ford, and you're on the board of directors, you're head of their charities, people listen to you. So even though this might not be what you want to hear, I would encourage you to consider staying in the company, and rather than just rejecting it and getting out of the whole thing, seeing how you can change it for the better from the inside. So he didn't like that. It wasn't what he was expecting to hear, but we had a very good conversation. And I'm not making any claims that I actually sort of caused him to stay in the business, but the fact is he did stay in the business, and that he has over time been slowly and steadily trying to bring more wholesome qualities into the kind of vehicles they produce and their work situation, and in many, many other ways. So my encouragement to him was like using a sort of bodhisattva with a small b, like to say you could be a bodhisattva of the auto industry, bringing good qualities. You're actively involved in that field. You're down in the marketplace, but because you have the power, you have the influence, you've got the position, you can use that in very, very skillful ways. So just as the Buddha, if you notice, shortly after the Buddha's enlightenment, he went very early on. He went back to Rajagaha and met with King Bimbisara. They had met when the Buddha was a bodhisattva, and so King Bimbisara has said, well, when they met, he was very impressed with him and actually offered him half of his kingdom and said, please rule with me. You're obviously a very impressive person, a great being. Please come and share my kingdom. And the Buddha, who was a samana, a wanderer at that time, said, well, no, I'm committed to the life of a yogi, of a sannyasin, a samana, so I can't take up your offer of half the kingdom. Well, Bimbisara then said, well, what about, well, if you do reach full enlightenment, can you come back and teach me? And he said, yes, I'll do that. So shortly after the Buddha's enlightenment, he went back to Rajagaha, and so then he became a spiritual guide for King Bimbisara. So that then, by being a spiritual guide, rather than saying, oh, I've become a monk, I've had it with worldly things, I'm not going to have anything to do with society, rather than say dismissing all the kings and royals and rich people and say, ugh, I've had it with those disgusting rich people. He went right to the king, and then helped the king to develop wholesome qualities, helped the king to be guided in a skillful way, so then the king could then influence the society from the top down. And shortly after, then he met with King Pasenadi, the king of Kosala, in exactly the same way. So Pasenadi also became his disciple, and similarly, by becoming the Buddha's disciple and being in a powerful position of an absolute monarch, then he could instill those wholesome qualities into society. And also the life story of the Emperor Ashoka similarly is many powerful influences he had on Indian society because of his faith in Buddha Dhamma. So my encouragement to Bill Ford was, well, maybe that you, even though it might be much more attractive to go off and live in a little farm in Vermont, and it would be a sacrifice to stay in the auto industry, that you should see that this is something that you can give, something you can bring, something you can benefit. So living a Dhamma life in the capitalist world, I would say, again, I don't really know exactly the work that all of you do, but in that same kind of spirit, those of you who do have influence, have power, have the capacity to change people's lives and bring good things into the world, that you can use the influence that you have, the strength, the skills, the knowledge that you have to be of great benefit. You have the capacity to bring good things into society and to benefit people. So that now maybe more Banchar is thinking, hey, maybe I'm going to lose some of the BIA people. They're going to hop over the wall and come to the securities company and see if they can help out more on that side. But I'll leave that to the Banchar brothers to work out between them. But I feel that was a very interesting meeting that we had, and I've had a sort of an eye on Bill Ford since then. And I heard that when he came to Thailand to discuss with the Prime Minister about setting up some Ford motor plants, like Ford vehicle construction manufacturing plants here in Thailand, that to the annoyance of both Bill Ford's advisors and the Prime Minister's advisors, they spent most of the meeting talking about Ajahn Chah and his teachings. So I was told that Bill Ford's secretary told me, they were really upset. But he and the Nayok spent all the time talking about Lumpur Cha. About 10 minutes on the manufacturing plants and about 40 minutes on Lumpur Cha. Or maybe the last thing I'd like to share before finishing this the first part of this talk is the other element of so we have the kind of meditation teachings and the wisdom teachings, the samadhi and the panya. So the panya wisdom teachings about changing our attitude and the way that we see things, like with learning to develop the anicca sanya, the perception of uncertainty, changing our attitudes. The last element of the training is that of sila, of virtue, the quality of sin, of the precept, living an honest life. And so in the business world, you might think, okay, now it's really going to go on. But one thing that was really striking to me, both about a month ago, I was invited to give a talk at Ashridge Management College, which is about 5 kilometers away from Amaravati, just across the other side of the valley. So just like the BIA and the Phatra Securities are kind of a partnership. So one side of the valley you have Amaravati Monastery, the other side of the valley you have this Ashridge Management College, where the sort of high finance people come and do their trainings. And I was invited to go and give a talk there to some senior management people, partners from an international accounting company. And one of the things that we were talking about was the role of trust and honesty in the business world, and how everything really revolves around trust. And say that when people have confidence in something, like even confidence in a product, or the shares of a product become more valuable. When people trust this is a good thing, people are going to buy it, then the value goes up. Or when someone's in the business world, if you can be trusted, even if you're not such a great performer with the bottom line, if people know that you're trustworthy and that you are reliable in your dealings, that you are honest, then your business will tend to succeed over and over again. Others who are less reliable or less honest or a bit more dubious, then they might make a quick profit or be successful for a while, but when that trust is not there, then sure enough, sooner or later, the business fades away and erodes. And it was a very interesting discussion, because again, they were surprised that something that was such an important part of their economic life and the business world. He said, yeah, that's exactly how it works in the business world. I said, well, the honesty and virtue is a central feature of Buddhist practice. And so that in terms of finding peace and clarity in your lives, and one of the most easy and helpful ways to do it is to always be honest, to just be as fair and open in your dealings, and to just not be trying to bend things or take secret advantage of twisting the truth just to make things be heard in a way that you would like, or trying to get a little extra profit, just a little, coffee money over here. Not that any of you would do that, but that causes stress and difficulty. That is one of the things that clogs up our life. So I just finish with a little story from when I was living in California. In the monastery there is about 200 kilometers north of San Francisco, and I would teach down in the Bay Area every month. And one time I was invited to have a meal at a Thai restaurant in San Francisco. And that day a woman came to visit and wanted to have a chat with me. And she was a real estate agent, a realtor, and she was a single mother. And she and her husband had separated, and she had one 9-year-old son. And she said how she was an estate agent, and what had happened was that a client had come in and had said, I've got to sell this in a hurry. I don't care how much, what you price it at. I just need a fast sale. And so she said, okay, well we can receive the property, and so that the way that the deal went through, that she received the property on this fast sale, and it was I think she paid $400,000 for it. She took the property on the price of $400,000, and then she was able to make a deal very shortly after to sell for $650,000. And the whole thing went through so fast through her books that she realized, oh, nobody knows about this in the office except me. It's come in and gone out so fast, and I'm the only one that knows that 400 went out. All I have to do is change the numbers, and 250 can come my way. And she said, well, my son is very good at mathematics, and I like to help him with his work. So he sits down with me and does the bookkeeping of the real estate company with me. So I go through the books with him, and so he's well aware of what goes on in the books there. And so then I saw this opportunity. It all happened within the space of a few hours, just in a single day at her office. And she said, I had this big temptation because it was really clear, and I thought back and forth. No one would know. No one would know. All I have to do is just change the numbers here. Am I right? Am I right? Back and forth. Yeah, I'm right. No one would know. But then she thought about it, and then she said, I went home that evening and sat down with my son and said, we have to have a talk. And she said, we've always said that we need to move to a bigger apartment because it's very crowded with the two of us there in this little bedsit. And he said, yes. He said, and you know that you really want that new bicycle for Christmas? I said, yes. He said, well, I have to tell you that today there was an opportunity to get a bigger apartment and to get the new bicycle. But I didn't take that opportunity. And I'm going to tell you why. And so then she walked through the whole thing with her son and sort of showed him how it would work on the books. So see, this is what came in, this is how I would have worked it, and so then we would have had an extra $250,000 to play with. Now, and so she said, I can see that you're unhappy about this. Like, I wanted that bicycle. But I'm telling you this because I hope you will understand, and I hope this will be a better gift for you than getting the bicycle and the bigger apartment. He said, because even though, I'm pretty good at the math. He said, yeah, Mom, you're good. He said, and, but the thing is that I would know, and then because I know, then I would have that in the back of my mind. And I would know, and I would be afraid that you would know. I would have to keep it secret from you. So then there's a barrier between you and me. I'm your mother, and I have to keep a secret from you. We don't like to keep secrets together. Right, Mom, right. So, but also, even though I'm sure nobody would find out, still, they might find out. Because tuk sing tuk yang mai nai. And so even though I felt like I really would be totally covered, you never know. So I decided to sign it off at the correct price and to give the 250 to the company and to not take anything out of it. And so that's the choice that I made, and I hope you understand. And he said, well, yeah, I get it. And so then she was asking me, do you think I did right or did I do wrong? And I said, listen, you have given your son a gift that will stay with him for the rest of his life. And that will stay with him, and he'll pass that on to people that he lives with, his own children, and that will be an incredibly wonderful gift, worth far more than $250,000. And so I felt that was a wonderful example of honesty and the power of it, and seeing that, sure, that's going to affect their lives in a very, very good way. And she saw that the freedom from worry and the freedom from deceit in her heart was far more precious than having an extra pile of money in the bank. So I offer these thoughts for your consideration, and I hope something has been useful there, and whatever has not been useful, please leave it aside, and please, whatever is useful, take it and employ it. And if you've missed all of the nuances of the English, because I use a lot of words, and sometimes I speak too quickly, but it's all recorded so that you can follow it through with someone who's a fluent English speaker and get the essence later on if you need to. But we can have a little bit of a break now, and then time for some questions afterwards. Okay.
ท่านอาจารย์ครับ so this is for my better understanding of what you have given to us. So from your recommendation of the 5-second meditation, my kind of like my take on it, or my understanding of it, is for us to like try to get to the current moment, to the present, to understand or to feel the present moment. Mm-hmm. So I would like to just make sure that is that the main purpose of the 5-second meditation.
Yes.
And then the second point is, which I think for myself in the longer term will be harder, is how do I detect that or find a way to understand when I'm not thinking about present. That's the hard part for me, I think, to try to.
Well, yeah, that's the tricky thing to know when we are distracted, and so there are different ways of like creating what you might call punctuation marks in your day. So say if you set your watch to, or your iPhone to bleep every half hour. So then just to every time you hear it bleep, like, oh, where is my mind? Right? Or another practice Luang Por Sumedho would teach is to use the mindfulness of going through doors. How many times a day do you go through a door? And so just say, okay, and then what helps is at the beginning of the day, just to say, okay, during the course of today, every time I go through a door, I'll bring my attention to what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and just not even to necessarily slow down, but just to use that as a way to punctuate your day, to notice what you're feeling. And it's a very simple practice, but if you take that on and you actually do it, it's amazing to how it helps to keep track of what the flow of moods and feelings are, and the sense of busyness, like I gotta get on to the next thing. And so that, of course, you sometimes get distracted and you realize, oh, I've been through to 3 meetings and I didn't even notice one door. But at least you now notice that you have been distracted. And so in the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha points out that even when you are distracted, at least when that distraction is over, to recognize, oh, I have been distracted for so many hours. Right there, mindfulness is established. Like just that awareness, oh, look, I've been lost for an hour, 2 hours, completely gone for 3 hours. Then, in a sense, that is not wasted, because at that moment you're recognizing, aha, I have the capacity to be lost for 3 hours. So I should bear that in mind and be more careful in the future. And so then for these micro meditations, a short, like 5-second meditation, it's just to find a sense of relaxation, to find a quality of settling, to notice what the mood is, but also to let yourself, say, be more at ease, to give yourself permission to not be in a tense or agitated state, so that it's not just a matter of noticing the mood, but then through noticing it, let that awareness then trigger a relaxation and a attitude of non-stress, not creating suffering or tension in the present moment.
I have a question. From the initial part of your teaching, you mentioned about don't be selfish.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very hard part for me to connect that to my business life,
Mm-hmm.
my work life. And I wonder if my mind, my thought to carry out this teaching is to think about more to my firm as
Mm-hmm.
as a bigger part, as the majority of us, in terms of the benefit,
Mm-hmm.
rather than my level of benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be something coming to the right direction
Yeah.
to this teaching?
Yes, absolutely.
Anything else that you could please give more elaboration or more deep, getting deeper to carry out this?
Well, the injunction to not be selfish, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do our best. It means we should try to do the best that we can in the work that we do, but it's looking at the motivation that we have. What is it that we're doing it for? Is it to become famous? Is it to become rich? Is it to become powerful? Or is it to bring benefit to other people, to see this is for the welfare of society? Is this something that I see has a greater range of good qualities that come from it? So then, part of the way of working with selfishness is first of all to notice when we do feel selfish, when we get that, well, what about me? Or like, look at this. You just, when you've succeeded in some big project, you just happen to leave the report about it, in the middle of the table, so that people will be, ooh, so that people find out about it. When you see that urge to be proud or to be, say, admired or to be strong, that to first of all just be aware of that as a event that's happening in your mind, an arom, an attitude that is arising in your mind, and to notice that, to, in a sense, highlight that, like, look at this. This is the kwam atta. This is the self-feeling. And then one of the ways that Luang Por Sumedho would talk about developing an understanding of this is to say, to stress that, to emphasize that in your mind, so that you would, when you notice a selfish feeling or a self-centered attitude of pride, then rather than just trying to push it away, to actually inflate it, so that within your mind you say, look at me, I am the best. I really am. I mean, I'm not being proud, this is just fact. I am the best. And then, often when you do that, you can't even get to the end of the sentence before it seems ridiculous. You recognize it as being foolish. Because if you always try to push it away and say, I shouldn't have kwamata, I shouldn't be selfish, or I mustn't think that. If you just push it away, then often that makes it stronger. So this is Luang Por Sumedho's method here, I find, is very successful. So you spell it out, like, and also the same for desire. But I want it. What about me? And you can't even say it without realizing you sound like a 3-year-old. But then when you spell it out like that, then rather than letting go of it because you have the idea, the Buddha said, or Ajahn Buddhadasa said, I should let go. It's more from your own chitjai, your own panya, your own wisdom that says, that's ridiculous. That's the inner 3-year-old talking. So it just falls away on its own. You don't really have to let it go. It just falls away because it's ridiculous. It's a
very effective reminder to
yeah.
myself.
Yeah, and so that often the way of letting go of self-centered, selfish thinking is just to, if you're mindful of it, if you're aware that it's happening, then to catch it and then make it clear, and then it goes on its own.
พระอาจารย์ครับ most of your teaching is how to live peacefully and happily in the today chaos capitalism world. And for me, this is the first time when I discuss with the monks about capitalism and not attacking the capitalism itself. Because in my experience, for me, time when Dr. Bancha asked me to join the discussion about among especially the thinkers in the Buddhism and the Sai Wat Pa, so and so. It seemed like most people in Buddhism area blame a lot on capitalism, on many problems we are facing. How do you feel about capitalism itself? Is it contradict with the Buddhism teaching, so and so? For example, most of the people blame on capitalism create materialism, so and so. And how you feel about capitalism? You are more close. You are closer to the capitalist world than most of Buddhist thinkers, I believe.
Yeah. Well, it depends a little bit on what is exactly meant by capitalism. If capitalism is the belief in profit for me as the absolute good, then I'd say I would oppose it. Well, that's not a wholesome thing. But It's just like in the Buddha's teachings, like in the Sigalovada Sutta, talking about how to live a skillful life as a layperson, how to carry out your work to provide for your family, to support the society. That if you have, like the advice I gave to Bill Ford, it wasn't thinking about how to make him richer. It was just how he's in a position of influence and how he can use that to be of benefit rather than of harm. So, to me, it's how we use human energy, a skillful direction of our human energies. And so, if capitalism means how to run a corporation so that it can be successful, if then, let's say, this company, I can't pretend I know exactly what you all do, apart from it involves numbers. But if what you're doing is involving a concern for the benefit of people, and that the profits that come from your work and your efforts are ploughed back into the benefiting society, improving the quality of life of society, well then great, very good. It's like if you look at the Buddha's teaching in the Prasut, the Buddha was trying to encourage the welfare, the well-being of society. He didn't say to King Bimbisara or King Pasenadi, you should try to run your countries so that you're as poor as possible. Everybody has as little as possible. He didn't say that. For those who wish to live as samanas, who wish to have few possessions, like I choose to live as a monk. Before I was a monk, I was a hippie. I like to have few possessions. I still like to have patchwork. I keep my robes for a long time. I have little. I use them till they wear out, because that's the way a monk is, and that I like to have a few things, make them last for a long time. I've had this yam for 26 years. So, if you are a pumak noi, you like to have a few things, and you don't. I have no desire to have children or a family. Then I like to live simply. So the life of a monk is ideal for someone of this disposition. But many other people don't want to live that way. People want to have families, and that they're concerned for providing for those who have little, like medical amenities for the poor, education for the whole society, and that security within the society. So that if capitalism, and the profit that comes from a company like this, and the people who comprise it, can also have those attitudes of caring for each other, caring for their country, caring for the world, so that they're not contributing to things that damage the environment. They're supporting things that, say, help the education, welfare, well-being of the society. Well, great. To me, that's a skillful use of human energy and human capacity, and that, of course, it can be misused, like anything. But if it's say guided in a useful way, then I'd say fine, very good. Sadhu. Because the capitalist world, it can be just causing harm and negativity. When I don't think anybody here knows, but my godfather was a partner of De Beers Diamond Corporation. So I had an open door to De Beers Diamonds when I was a student. So the deal was, my godfather was Raymond Oppenheimer. So he's a cousin of Harry Oppenheimer. Yes. The king of South Africa, or was, So he is, Harry Oppenheimer's mother and father were brother and sister of Raymond Oppenheimer's mother and father. They're double cousin. 2 brothers married 2 sisters. So that was my godfather. So the deal was, if I got a university degree, I could enter De Beers Diamond Corporation and just buy low. So that was in my mind as I was a student, and I liked artwork, and I liked the advertising. I was always very impressed by clever adverts, and I thought I did a degree in psychology and physiology, So I thought, well, maybe with a psychology degree I could go into the advertising arm of De Beers, and I like diamonds and jewels and beautiful things. So, well, maybe I could do that. So that was in the back of my mind. And a turning point in my life came when I was on the bus in London. I was a student at London University. So I was on a bus in London on an upper deck. And we were going around a big roundabout, and there was this large billboard. And there was this advert, a billboard advert for De Beers diamonds. And it was a woman's neck, just the bottom of her chin to the top of her chest. And there was a black ribbon around her neck. And on the ribbon there was this beautiful diamond brooch, this kind of elegant diamond brooch pinned on her neck. And the caption was, "Isn't it time you bought your wife a diamond before somebody else does?" And I looked at that and I thought, that is evil. That is evil. I wasn't a moralist. I was a kind of hippie student type. I was not a kind of prudish person. But that really hit me. I thought, do I want to join them? Do I want to be part of that? So to me, that's the ugly side of the capitalist world, where you're deliberately arousing desires and fears in people. I mean, to put that into the mind of someone to make profit for your company. My supab. Not beautiful. So that was when I felt I'm not interested in being a part of that. So to me, that kind of the capitalist world where whatever it takes to make a profit doesn't matter. Yeah, that I would say is the downside, where people compromise their human values in order to make profit. That's harmful. And in the course of a day, I'm sure there's 100 or 500 times when you have to make moral decisions, difficult decisions, one way or another, small, large, and those are difficult to do. But the kind of principles I was talking about today, about not being selfish, or say opting for honesty, straightforwardness, like that example of the woman in San Francisco, I was very touched by that. I thought, what a wonderful thing that she would say, put aside that chance for a profit when they were quite poor and struggling, because of seeing the power and the richness of honesty and goodness. And so that I have no regrets about not joining De Beers. I mean, I don't hold any negativity, but just I was telling that story, not to criticize my godfather's company, but just that side of the capitalist world is unskillful, is akuson. And so that in your world, I'm sure you're having to weigh those two up against each other on a daily basis. Okay, we put money into this, but their business practices are not great, their environmental record is, don't want to look at that, but it's big profit. So do we support them, do we not? So then to bring these principles of Dhamma into bear, and to consider them when you have to make those decisions, then the more that you bring things in line with Dhamma, then the more it'll benefit your company and the more it'll benefit the world. That's my thesis on Dhamma and capitalism. If you don't agree, please, feel free to make any comment.
May I share somewhat of my opinion?
Please.
In fact, capitalism is just an development of the system. If you look back to compare on even other system, people always blame that capitalism create too much materialism, so and so. But if you look back, before capitalism, there's feudalism, that's even more materialist. But that objective for to be materialism is just limited to only the church, only the king, only the noble. That's why we have the great St. Peter's Basilica, we have Westminster, Versailles. But compared to capitalism just the system allow to greater opportunity for more people. or to the other extreme, like socialism. In socialism, people seem to not allow to be too much materialism because they can't afford to. Only those people in the Kremlin or Politburo circle around, something like that. So to me, I don't support capitalism on every sense, but it seems like it's just a kind of development. But what worries to me is most of the Buddhism people in Thailand, they always blame on capitalism, especially for those thinkers, except Dhamma or Vajrayana, which love capitalism. So like that. My point just is that talking about Buddhism and capitalism in Thailand, there's no good dialogue debate on how they can develop together well and sink into another in Thailand, especially.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I see. It's like the way that the Buddha he drew close and was available to teach, like King Pasenadi, King Bimbisara, the Vajrayan Confederacy. He was available to teach the rulers, and then to help guide the rulers to use the power and strength and wealth that they had to bring good influences into society. So they could use that strength to benefit people, so that everyone could live a more, say, comfortable and peaceful and fruitful life. So that's how I see it. But we have to be mindful, because it's not just like you set a system in place and then it just goes. It's like a car; you got to pay attention every second. You have to make adjustments all the time. And so that sati panya is the most important element of, like, because if you just set it going and then go to sleep at the wheel, my why?
In fact, Buddha itself seemed to be the first investment banker in the world. When he succeeded in the first ever non-hostile M&A, merger and acquisition, when he took over Chadin Thangha and 1,000 followers. It seemed like somebody talk about that.
Non-hostile takeover.
Non-hostile. The first non-hostile takeover in the world. That is 2,600 years ago.
Yeah, very good. Well, I think that's a good moment on which to end this time. So thank you very much for creating this occasion. And I have to be setting off, so I wish to express my sadhu anumotana for Phatra group and Kun Bancha and everybody here. So I wish you all success in all of your noble aspirations, and that I hope we'll be able to see some of you at Amaravati in England. It's not far from London. So any of you have business in the city, it's only like less than an hour away. So please do come and visit when you can.